I went to the hospital to pick up my test results. The doctor said I was infertile. As I was trying to figure out how to break the news to my wife, the phone rang. "George, I've got some good news. I'm pregnant." I held the infertility report in my hand, and I felt like the world had just collapsed on me. I'd been married to Anna Miller for 3 years, and we still didn't have kids. My parents kept pushing us, insisting that we get checked. Every time I brought it up with Anna, she'd get this annoyed look on her face. I figured I couldn't force the issue, I needed to be patient. So, I decided to get checked first. If everything was fine with me, I could slowly talk Anna into it. Who knew, it turned out the problem was mine. Looking at the test results, I felt sick to my stomach. Anna, still a bit immature, didn't want kids, and that was fine. But what if, one day, she did? What if I was the one who'd taken away her chance to be a mother? I left the hospital, sat on the side of the road, and smoked half a pack, feeling like a failure. I couldn't stop thinking about how I would tell Anna when I got home. Then, the phone rang. It was Anna. Her voice sounded so cheerful. "George, I've got some good news. I'm pregnant." I gripped the phone with one hand, holding my medical report in one hand. My mind was spinning. "What did you say?" Anna laughed. "Are you that shocked?" I said, "I'm pregnant. You're going to be a dad. But I can't have kids." I snuffed out the cigarette, tore the test results into pieces, and tossed them in a nearby trash can. It seemed like the whole way home was a string of green lights. When I got back, Anna was on the phone. I stood by the door, listening for a moment. "Yeah, Mom. I'm just over 2 months along." She was talking to her mom. Of course I remember, how can I not love my brother? His family's demolition compensation will be received soon, and we will move to a bigger house, and the current house will be given to Nate. Don't worry, George will listen to me. His parents are desperate for a grandchild, and now I'm carrying his baby. I will be the master of this house. So that's what this was all about. We're from a rural area. My parents didn't have much education, but they were solid, honest people. Anna never respected them. She's always had a chip on her shoulder, even back in college, with big dreams of marrying into money. Anna's beautiful, but her parents are retired factory workers, and she's got a younger brother. Rich people aren't fools, they know better than to marry someone just for looks. When I graduated, our family was included in a new development zone and faced demolition. That's when I stood out from the crowd of suitors and managed to marry Anna. Before the wedding, my family bought us this 3-bedroom apartment. Now, Anna's pregnant with someone else's child and wants to give my house to her brother? She's dreaming. I stood by the door for a while, waiting for the silence inside to settle before I finally opened it. Anna was sitting on the couch, eating fruit. As soon as she saw me, she pulled out the pregnancy test results and showed them to me. "George, you've always wanted a child, right? This is what you wish for. Are you happy now?" Happy? Not even a little. I was boiling inside, but I held it back. I still didn't know whose child Anna was carrying. If I confronted her now, it would only end in a divorce, and that would be too easy for them. I forced a smile, pretending to be happy, and promised her I'd listen to everything she wanted from now on. Anna seemed to like that. "I'm going to take a shower now. Later, I want steak. Make sure you get it ready." As soon as she headed to the bathroom, I take away her phone. It was a new model I'd just bought her, and the old one had gone to her mom. The phone her mom didn't want, came to me. At the time, Anna was so touched that she set the password to our wedding anniversary in front of me. I scrolled through her messages, but found nothing suspicious. This is definitely not right. Anna is pregnant, it is impossible not to contact her lover. Then it hit me, she had another phone. She'd complained that her old phone's screen was too small and didn't work well for gaming, so I bought her a tablet computer just for that. I dug out the tablet computer, but no matter how many times I tried, I couldn't unlock it. I had to force myself to calm down. The next day, when Anna left the house, I followed her. She drove straight to the gym. Pregnant and still going to the gym? I was confused until I saw a guy climb into her car. She didn't even get out. She wasn't there to work out. She was there to pick someone up. I saw it clearly, it was her personal trainer. I stayed hidden in the taxi, watching closely as the guy climbed into the passenger seat and kissed Anna on the lips. I had paid for those personal training sessions. Is there anything more pathetic than this? The two of them drove off. The light was about to turn red, and I panicked. Follow them. The cab driver, clearly irritated, replied, if you're in a hurry to run for president, you still need to follow the rules. I didn't care anymore. Gritting my teeth, I said, I'm catching my wife cheating. The driver looked at me and muttered, you should have said that earlier. He slammed the gas pedal, speeding through the yellow light. Sure enough, men understand each other. The two of them drove into a high-end neighborhood where no outside vehicles were allowed in. With no other option, I returned to the gym. I pretended to want to sign up for a membership and gathered some basic information on the trainer. He was just an ordinary fitness instructor. How could he afford to live in such an upscale neighborhood? So, I sent his details to my childhood friend, Marcus, asking him to look into it. Marcus works early, has a wide network, and was the right person for the job. That evening, while Anna was taking a shower, I grabbed her tablet computer. I kept replaying the image of the trainer's personal poster in my mind from the gym. I entered his birthday, and sure enough, it unlocked. The tablet computer I bought for her, she used it to hook up with her lover. And she set his birthday as the password. My anger boiled as I scrolled through the messages. To my surprise, the most recent chat wasn't with her lover, but with her best friend. Best friend, I started seeing a guy recently. He's actually willing to spend money on me, but he's just like your George, old-fashioned, a real stickler, and totally hung up on that virginity thing. By the way, Anna, where did you get your hymen reconstruction surgery done? Anna. Men are like that. Anna recommended a business card for a private clinic. Their tech is top-notch, just like the real thing. George still treasures the sheets from that night like they're a treasure, thinking I'm a virgin. Best friend, thanks, Anna. That's exactly what I need. I just don't get what these nouveau riches think. Is that membrane really that important? Anna, you wouldn't believe it. George has liked me all these years, and this is part of the reason. He still thinks I was a virgin when I slept with him. It's hilarious. Of all the men I've slept with, he was the worst in bed. If it weren't for the money his family will get from the demolition, I wouldn't even give him a second glance. My hand trembled as I held the phone, my temples pounding. I thought back to when I first met Anna. I really thought I'd found a treasure. For all these years, I had treated her princess. She had seemed so pure and innocent to me. Sure, she had a bit of vanity and could be a little bratty at times, but I just thought it was cute. I always met her needs without question. Now, all I felt was like the biggest fool. I struggled to control my fury as I kept scrolling. The next message was from the trainer. Trainer, Anna, have you told him you're pregnant yet? He didn't get suspicious, did he? Anna, don't worry. He's so desperate for a kid, he's over the moon about it. He's thrilled, he doesn't suspect a thing. Trainer, good. He's a bit of an idiot, but lucky idiots have good fortune. With the compensation from the demolition, he'll be able to help me raise the kid. I'm good with that. By the way, Anna, I still need that one more deal this month. You've got to help me close it. Anna, no problem. That man, sleeping with another man's wife, using her to get his work done, it's so scary. I kept scrolling through their messages, the content so shocking, it left me speechless. Since we got married, Anna hadn't worked a single day. She'd been using my money to pay for VIP courses with her lover. A scumbag man, a cheap woman, betraying me, and still treating me like a fool. They had no idea what they were messing with. I was going to make them pay. The next morning, Anna started whining about wanting to buy a yoga class. I told her, you're pregnant, no need for any more exercise. She immediately got upset. You don't get it. You can still exercise during pregnancy, but it has to be the right kind. The one I signed up for is specifically for pregnant women, it'll be good for your son. Why are you acting like you know better? Normally, at this point, I would have given in immediately. But today, I remained cold and said, I'll think about it, and then walked out. I could already picture the look on Anna's face. After all these years, I had never refused her, nor had I ever given her the cold shoulder. Every time she was unhappy, I would immediately apologize and do anything to make it right. Now that she was pregnant, her attitude was even worse, and this time, she was met with my indifference. I could practically hear her boiling with anger. Sure enough, as soon as I got to the garage, my phone rang. It was Anna calling. I didn't answer, just went to work like usual. The phone kept ringing all day, and Anna called dozens of times, but I didn't pick up. Finally, she started flooding me with messages. George. Are you out of your mind? How dare you ignore my calls? Do you even care about us anymore? I'm carrying your child, and if you want to stay in my life, you better come back and apologize within 10 minutes. I'm giving you one chance, don't screw this up. George, you'll regret this. I read the messages coldly, picturing how furious Anna must be right now. A strange sense of satisfaction filled me. Let her get angry. Let her stew. Maybe this would finally teach her a lesson. After work, I went to a restaurant and had a meal alone for the first time. I actually enjoyed it. It felt refreshing to eat by myself. I didn't get home until late. When I walked in, Anna was crying, her mother and brother sitting on the couch glaring at me like they were ready for a showdown. Perfect. This was exactly the outcome I wanted. As soon as I walked in, Anna threw a pillow at me. George, how dare you come back? What do you think you're doing? I quickly ran over, feigning concern. Anna, what's wrong? Why are you crying so much? Mrs. Miller, Nate, what's going on? Is there something wrong at home? I acted completely clueless. Do you know how many times I tried calling you today? How many messages I sent? Why didn't you respond? All I wanted was to spend a little bit of your money on a yoga class, and this is for your son. I'm pregnant, suffering, and you go out and come back this late. Are you my husband? I immediately pulled her into a hug and explained, Anna, you've got it all wrong. I was just swamped today, didn't even see my phone. When I finally checked, it was dead. This phone's battery life is awful. It barely lasts a day on standby. Anna knew full well I was using the old phone she and her mom had discarded. I took out the dead phone to show her and softened my tone, trying to calm her down. Anna, I'm sorry I came back so late. I went to check out a yoga studio. If you want to sign up for a class, we have to pick the best one, right? It's important for you and the baby. I didn't want to be careless. Hearing this, the mood in the room seemed to ease a bit. Mrs. Miller spoke up, George, you have no idea how much my daughter cried today. No matter what. You've made Anna suffer. She's pregnant, it's hard enough, and you owe her an apology. You need to show some real sincerity. Nate, seemingly picking up on some cue, immediately jumped off the couch. Yeah, Anna's been crying all day. You can't just brush this off. I couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. I knew exactly what was going on. I'd gotten used to this. Every time Anna and I fought, her family always found a way to take advantage of the situation. Now that she was pregnant, they were bound to ask for more. It wasn't hard to guess, they were eyeing my compensation from the demolition and my house. They were casting their bait, hoping I'd bite. I forced a smile. Yes, Anna's pregnant, she can ask for anything. Anna sniffled and said, you said it yourself. I replied firmly, yes, I did. She wiped her nose. Now that we're having a baby, we need a bigger house. Nate's also seeing someone, and when he gets married, he'll need a place to live. I was thinking we should move into a bigger house. And we can give this one to Nate as his wedding gift. I jumped up in a flash, my anger flaring. Anna, what did you just say? How can you be so selfish? Their faces immediately went from confused to defensive. George, what's your problem? Isn't it normal to give Nate a house for his wedding? I dropped my smile and gave Anna a cold look. Anna, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Nate is your brother, and you're telling me you want him to settle for the old house when he gets married? They all just stared at me, dumbfounded, like a bunch of clueless idiots. I pressed on. When Nate gets married, we can't let him live in this place. I'm his brother-in-law, and I'm going to buy him a new house. Mrs. Miller was the first to catch on, grabbing my hand enthusiastically. George, are you serious about buying Nate a house? I patted her hand with a smile. Of course, Mom. Nate is Anna's brother, and that makes him my brother too. He's getting married, so not just a house, I'll get him a new car as well. Mrs. Miller's face lit up, completely transforming from before. I knew George was a good guy. Anna and Nate both grinned, showing their teeth. Clearly happy with the idea. Seeing everyone's approval, I added, but as for the yoga class, I'll need to look into it first. Anna quickly seized the moment. My old personal trainer does prenatal yoga too, so just sign me up for his class. I immediately put my foot down. This is not negotiable. We can't take any chances when it comes to you and the baby. Mrs. Miller, just having heard I was buying her son a house and car, saw the change in my demeanor and knew that upsetting me now would cost her. She quickly jumped to my side, scolding Anna. Anna. You need to behave. Listen to George. Nate chimed in, yeah, Anna, just listen to George. Whatever he says, that's how it's going to be. Don't argue with him. With everyone on my side, Anna pouted and fell silent. Honestly, signing up for a yoga class was nothing compared to buying a house and car. Any idiot could tell what mattered more. Mrs. Miller and Nate left happily, and before they left, they reminded Anna to listen to me and not to make a fuss. I watched this family, each of them with their own little agendas, and couldn't help but sneer inwardly. The next day, I took Nate to look at houses. What he didn't know was that the agent showing us around was my childhood friend, Brian. I grew up with Marcus and Brian in the same neighborhood. We were inseparable. When Brian heard about my situation, he was furious and immediately decided to help me out. After a while, I made an excuse to leave and go back to work. Brian's the kind of guy who gets along with everyone, and in the past few days, he's been showing Nate properties all around the city. It didn't take long for Nate and Brian to hit it off and become good friends. From 2-bedroom units to 3-bedroom ones, then to penthouses, each place got more luxurious than the last. And of course, Nate's expectations kept rising. Taking advantage of the situation, Brian started to push him, how about a penthouse? This layout, this location, we're tight, I'll get you an internal discount, others won't get this kind of chance. Nate was clearly tempted but was worried I wouldn't cough up the money. Brian reassured him. Think about it, who does George fear the most? Who does he listen to the most? Nate responded confidently, of course, it's my sister Anna. Then let Anna work her magic. Sure enough, over the next few days, Anna kept casually mentioning how great the penthouse was, how amazing it would be. I just smiled and gave vague responses, neither agreeing nor refusing. In the meantime, Anna and Nate were both getting more anxious, but I stayed calm, unmoving. Brian leaned in again to Nate, our internal pricing policy ends next month. You're going to make a decision or not? If you miss this, you won't get another chance. I've only got one slot left, and I'm giving it to you because we go way back. You want it or not? There's a line of people waiting. And just like that, the whole family finally couldn't sit still anymore. That evening, Mrs. Miller invited me to dinner at a high-end restaurant, saying it was a special treat for me. It was the first time in all these years. I knew what was happening, bait had been cast, now the fish is hooked. Over the course of the meal, they tried every trick in the book to persuade me. I remained indifferent, responding vaguely and noncommittally. Finally, Mrs. Miller gave Anna a subtle nod. Anna pulled out a few photos and showed them to me. George, Nate's found a gem of a property these past few days. It's a great deal, and there's a special discount. Nate jumped in, adding, yeah, George, thanks to my good relationship with the manager, Brian, I can get it at the internal price. It's a real bargain. He flashed a few fingers at me. I picked up the photos and pretended to examine them carefully, then slapped my thigh. Wow, this house is fantastic, and the price is great. Nate. We can't let this opportunity slip by. The whole family lit up with excitement at my reaction. George, so we'll go ahead and reserve it then? The kid was so excited he could barely get the words out. I hurriedly said, that's the one. We'll pay for it next month. George, the thing is, the internal price deal ends this month. If we miss it, there won't be another chance. We should pay tomorrow. I pretended to hesitate, clicking my tongue in reluctance. But I don't have that much money right now. I just got the notification that my compensation from the demolition won't come through until next month. I don't have the cash on hand right now. At this, the family panicked. What do we do now? There are plenty of people eyeing this property. Anna knew the situation well. When we got married, her family insisted we pay for the house up front. My savings were pretty much tied up in the house, and all the money I earned over the years went straight into Anna's hands. She doesn't work. And her spending habits were reckless, there's hardly anything left. I sighed and pretended to regret, what a pity, such a perfect opportunity. Nate immediately panicked. Don't, George, let's think of another way. Can you lend me some money? I'll talk to Brian and see if we can pay part of it up front. I agreed to help, while having the small loan company I had already contacted reach out to Nate. Brian was pushing too, he was following the plan we discussed. He told Nate, I'm begging my boss, but if you can pay the full amount this month, I might be able to lower the price a little more. This is a rare opportunity, and we go way back. Just earlier, another client asked about this house. If you don't take it, I'll have to sell it to someone else. It didn't take long before Nate called me. George, I have a friend who works at a loan company. The process is super easy. Can you help me take out a loan to pay for the house? This place is just too good to pass up. I knew right then that the clueless kid had taken the bait. I firmly refused. Nate. You can't trust these loan companies. Most of them are linked to some shady characters. You don't want to get involved with them. Oh, George, you're just too cautious. You've been like this all these years, and that's why you haven't made anything of yourself. Anna chimed in from the side. George, can pay the money back next month anyway, so just borrow it for 1 month. It shouldn't be a big deal. Just take out a loan and book the house. I feigned indecision, dragging my feet and saying I'd need to think it over. I stalled them for a few more days, and finally, Marcus got back to me. I had asked Brian to look into that trainer, and now I had the results. Well, when I looked into it, I was more than surprised. His name is Henry. This guy, relying on his good looks and physique, specifically targets wealthy women. Not only does he seduce married women, but he's also being kept by a rich, 40-something woman. The upscale neighborhood we followed him to before? That was bought by that 40-something rich woman. This woman, Alice, runs a successful renovation company and often travels for work. Picking out materials. I suspect Henry only dares to bring Anna over when Alice is away on one of her trips. Recently, Brian and the team took on a batch of old, run-down properties, planning to renovate and sell them. With such a big deal in the works, Alice is understandably focused on the project. I stepped in to liaise with Alice for Brian, and soon enough, we got familiar with each other. On her social media, I found some pictures of her with Henry. Alice, your boyfriend really knows how to build muscle. Talking about Henry made Alice light up, a proud smile on her face. Yeah. He's in great shape, she said. Alice is a tough, business-minded woman, but when she spoke of Henry, she was practically glowing. I wonder how she'd react if she found out the man she's supporting was out there with other women behind her back. Lately, Alice has been too busy with the work project to pay Henry much attention, so I've been deliberately ignoring Anna. Sure enough, they couldn't stand the silence for long. That evening, I happened to see their chat logs. I knew the plan I'd set in motion was about to unfold. I immediately informed Brian to get ready. The next day, as soon as Anna left the house, I followed her. This time, she didn't head to that upscale neighborhood. I figured Alice must have been home, so Henry didn't dare take her there. Instead, Anna went straight to a hotel, where she met up with him at the entrance. I watched as they went inside, got a room, and checked in. I called Anna. She answered, asking what was up. I said, nothing, just thinking about you. A little while later, I called again. Anna sounded annoyed, asking me what I wanted. I repeated. Just wanted to tell you I was thinking about you. She gave me a few dismissive words and quickly hung up. When I tried calling again, well, surprise, she'd turned off her phone. Perfect. I sent the prepared photos to Brian. In the pictures, I was with a woman heading into the same hotel. As we'd agreed, Brian immediately forwarded the photos to Nate and gave him the room number. Brian only said that he was out with his girlfriend when he ran into me. Nate, who was already desperate for me to lend him money to buy the house, now had the perfect leverage and wouldn't let this chance slip. But Nate still couldn't reach Anna. Of course, I couldn't. She was too busy having her affair, and her phone was off to avoid interruptions. The calls I'd made to Anna were part of the plan. Nate, spoiled and self-centered, wouldn't think twice about asking his mother for help. Mrs. Miller was a cunning woman, and she immediately called a group of people to catch me having an affair. If they had concrete evidence of my affair, they'd squeeze every penny out of me. She pulled in everyone she could, almost every friend and relative. Determined to catch me red-handed. I crouched in a hidden spot, watching them storm the hotel lobby, where the receptionist was powerless to stop them. I sent the photos I had just snapped of Anna and Henry to Alice. Alice, is this your boyfriend? Alice replied almost immediately. Where? I sent the address to Alice. Her reply, terse and cold, sent a chilling feeling through me, even through the screen. I crouched behind the fire hydrant in the hallway, watching the chaos unfold. Mrs. Miller's people had broken down the door. The couple on the bed immediately scrambled to cover their faces with the blanket and towel. Without a word, Mrs. Miller's team pounced, grabbing them both. The whole scene erupted into chaos. Henry covered his head and face, trying to shield himself. Anna curled up under the covers, but Mrs. Miller wasn't having it. She yanked her by the hair. The sound of a few hard slaps echoed. Then Mrs. Miller froze. "How is it you?" After taking a few hits, Anna seemed dazed, possibly even stunned. "Mom, what are you doing here?" At that, the whole room went silent. They looked at the man lying on the floor, unable to lift his head after being beaten, and then realized, it was Anna who had been cheating. By now, the hallway was packed with people, all gathered to watch the spectacle. It was Mrs. Miller who reacted first, quickly wrapping Anna in the blanket. Her people started pushing back the onlookers. "Go on, move along, nothing to see here." Just as the crowd began to disperse, Alice stormed in with her entourage, her expression deadly. Alice wasn't someone to hesitate. She glanced at Henry, who was still in the buff, and then at Anna, who was wrapped up in the blanket. She quickly pieced it together. Henry had indeed been cheating. Word was Alice spent hundreds of thousands a year supporting Henry. From the look on her face, it was clear that her patience had worn thin. "Get him," Alice commanded. At her signal, several burly men lunged at Henry. I knew right then, Henry was done for. Anna had Mrs. Miller protecting her, so she only got a few slaps, lucky for her. But Henry? He didn't get off so easy. All the anger was focused on him. By the time the police arrived, Henry had a broken leg and had to be hauled off in an ambulance. The two groups of people who had been chasing the affair were also taken into custody by the police. Satisfied with the drama, I went home to wait for Anna. When she got home, both her cheeks were swollen, looking like pigs' heads. I rushed over, feigning concern. "What happened, Anna? What's with your face?" Normally, Anna would freak out over even a tiny pimple, or a little cut on her hand. She'd be crying and asking me to take her to the hospital. This time, though, she was trying to hide it. "It's nothing. Just bumped into something," she mumbled. I insisted, "It's nothing. You're swollen like this, and you're pregnant. You need to go to the hospital and get checked." Anna refused, saying she was fine. Of course, she wasn't going to admit what had happened. Even if her teeth were knocked out, she'd just swallow it down. These past few days, Nate had been all over me, begging for a loan to buy the house, but now he was completely quiet. I casually asked Anna, "So, what's Nate been up to? Haven't seen him around lately." Anna, of course, wasn't about to admit that Nate had been detained for causing trouble. She used to come to me for help with even the smallest issues, but now that the whole family was detained at the police station, she kept her mouth shut, claiming she had no idea. Seeing her in such a down mood, I played the caring husband. "Anna, you mentioned wanting to take a prenatal yoga class. I've already looked into it for you. Honestly, your previous instructor seemed good, so I think you should go with him. Let's sign up for the most expensive one-on-one VIP package." I was toying with her, enjoying the moment. Anna quickly hid in the bathroom and just said that she would not sign up for the prenatal yoga class. Alice had a certain influence in the local area, and Henry wrote a letter of understanding to Alice a few days later. By the time they were released, it was almost the end of the month. As soon as Nate got out, Brian was frantic, rushing over to him. "Nate, where have you been these past few days? I've been trying to contact you like crazy. Do you still want that house or not? It's the last few days. I've got a customer ready to pay. But I've been holding it off just for you. If it were anyone else, I'd have sold it already." Finally, Nate cracked. That same day, he came to me, asking me to hurry up and give him the loan. I repeated the same line, "Let me think about it." In the end, he realized he couldn't count on me, so instead of pushing for the loan, he just confirmed again and again, "George, the demolition compensation will definitely come through next month, right?" I had to reassure him. "Yeah, it'll be fine. A few days won't make a difference. Once the money comes in next month, we can look at an even better place." I promised him over and over that the money would be there. Feeling more at ease, I had Brian nudge him twice more. Sure enough, a few days later, Marcus called me. The loan company was connected through Marcus's contacts. Marcus told me Nate had already completed the paperwork and taken the loan. The company approved the loan quickly, though with terrifyingly high interest rates. I asked what would happen if he couldn't pay it back. Marcus replied, "Anyone willing to deal with this kind of company knows how to handle collections. They have all kinds of ways to push people to pay. Once you're in, it's hard to get out. If I hadn't promised Nate so firmly that he'd get the compensation next month, I'm sure he wouldn't have made the decision to go through with it. As expected, a few days later, Brian told me that Nate had sealed the deal on the house. Perfect. This family was on a one-way trip to disaster. The day the demolition compensation arrived, it just so happened to be Anna's birthday. To celebrate, I booked a restaurant and invited the Miller family over. Anna, being vain, had someone make a video for her birthday, planning to show it off to everyone. Of course, I obliged. Anna, now that she's pregnant, is the great contributor to the family, I said, making sure my adoration for her was obvious, giving her all the face she wanted. Anna beamed, flaunting herself to everyone. George is preparing to book me a $50,000 a month maternity center, with a whole staff just for me. Anna wore a smug smile, clearly rubbing it in. Especially to the relatives who weren't on good terms with her family. Mrs. Miller was sharp enough to keep reminding Nate about the loan. When Nate finally spoke to me, he seemed uncomfortable, mentioning he needed to pay several tens of thousands of dollars in interest. He had borrowed a lot, and the interest rate was high. His monthly interest was in the 5-digit range. I patted Nate's shoulder. Don't worry, after we finish celebrating Anna's birthday, we'll go pay off the loan. The Miller family seemed to relax at that. Then the big screen lit up. And Anna eagerly awaited the video she had spent so much money on, anticipating the birthday celebration. But to everyone's shock, the screen showed a video of a man and a woman in a hotel. Many of the Miller family members turned pale. There were more photos after the video, Anna's chat logs. Although many in the Miller family already knew about Anna's affair, seeing it so publicly displayed for everyone to see was completely unexpected. What's going on here? How could this happen? This must be a mistake. George, you can't trust this. The scene erupted into chaos. Anna and Miller tried to hold me back, each trying to explain. I shrugged them off. The evidence is right here, Anna. How could this be a mistake? Anna, you bitch. You're pregnant with someone else's child, and now you want me to take the blame? Go dream on. Nate, seeing the situation turning against him, rushed to me, panic in his eyes. George, Anna was just confused. She messed up, but this has nothing to do with me. You can't go back on your promise. The idiot still thought I'd help him pay his debts. I was so frustrated by his stupidity. I almost burst out laughing. Nate, what are you even dreaming of? Your whole family's been treating me like a fool for so long, and now you still think I'll give you money to pay your debts? What's going on in that brain of yours? I had my fun yelling at them, then turned and walked away. Behind me, I could hear Nate and his mom cursing. It's all your fault, you shameless thing. You went and made this embarrassing mess, ruining everything. You've made a fool of yourself, and now you've ruined Nate's chance too. Why don't you just die? Anna, as she'd hoped, ended up with an unforgettable birthday. I hired a professional lawyer to handle the divorce. Anna was the guilty party, and she didn't get a single penny out of it. I heard Anna had an induced labor, child was born safely. Because she was already several months along, the procedure caused some serious damage to her body. It seems like she'll have difficulty getting pregnant again in the future. As for Henry, he had his leg broken in the beating. His career in the fitness industry was over. He had no real skills to fall back on. Before, he had lived off wealthy women, but now, even that was taken from him. Word has it he spends his days drinking, wasting away. He blames everything on Anna. When he's drunk, he goes to Anna and demands money from her. Nate, meanwhile, is being relentlessly pursued for the debt. He's been running and hiding, like a rat avoiding the street cleaner. Nate and Miller's mother curse Anna every day, calling her a slut. They say if it weren't for her shameful actions, they wouldn't have ended up like this. The whole family is living in chaos and poverty, their lives falling apart.